There's something about the cold that makes me think fantasy every single time. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten, and in this weekly vlog I'm really trying to wrap up a couple of books I'm in the middle of, because obviously we're coming up to Christmas. I would really like to try and finish off a couple of books. I don't know if that's going to be possible because one of them is quite chunky. So last week I started my reread of The Way of Kings Part 1 by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Stormlight archive. I am up to Part 2, Chapter 2, page 163, and this is almost 600 pages long. I would really like to get this finished this week. That is the plan. Whether it happens or not, I'm not sure. This is an epic adult fantasy book. I really am enjoying this one. We are following two main different characters, one being Kaladin. And Kaladin is a slave. He didn't start off that way, but he is a slave. In this book you get some of his backstory into how he got into this position. You also learn the fact that his father was a physician and he actually grew up learning a lot about that. He is battling with depression. He is struggling to deal with the fact that he is a slave because he was betrayed by the Bright Lord that he was following. He is also in the middle of a war. So where he is a slave is actually on the Shattered Plains, where this massive war is taking place between the Alethi and the Barshendi. It is a quite expansive world, but Brandon Sanderson does it in such a way that's so accessible that I really enjoy it. And when he is explaining about the world, it doesn't feel info dumpy. You do have magic in this as well, but it starts off as really light in this first book and it just slowly grows throughout the series, which again works really well as a nice introduction to things, and you're learning as the characters learn. And I just think it's so good. There are so many different politics and things that are going in this, but again, you're seeing this from Kaladin's view of the war, and so you're only getting little bits. And then as the series progresses and you get more and more characters as the book progresses, then the world expands even more, which I just think works so well. We are also following Shalyn. Shalyn is part of a lesser household in the rankings of society. Her family has fallen into disrepair. Her father has died. They cannot let anyone know this because the debt collectors are after them. And so to save her family, Shalyn tries to get herself apprenticed to a princess called Jansa. I'm sorry I pronounced that name wrong. And she manages to do this. She is also an artist, so you get lots of illustrations in the book from her. Again, another way to learn a little bit more about this world that Sanderson has created. It's something that I actually like reading all the text to learn more. So you don't have to, you can just have it as a nice picture out of Shalyn's sketchbook. So again, you're learning more about politics from that side of things and also about the magic system. So you're following these two different characters, two different plot lines, but they eventually merge together later in the series. I think it works really well. It's a fantastic book. It's so complex that it's really hard to sum up. It is done in such an accessible way that even though the way I'm explaining it may sound a bit complicated, read it and give it a try because it does read so much easier than I'm able to explain this. So that's the book that's high priority I want to finish this week. And then I also have Wakenhurst by Michelle Paver. I started this one during my 24-hour readathon. I only got to chapter 15, page 132, so I've still got about 230 pages left of this book. Again, I would like to get this one finished. If not, then I might read it next week and then just finishing it before I go into the new year, because I don't want to go into the new year in the middle of a book, to be quite honest. I want to get this finished. This one is more of a gothic thriller. We're following Maud, and Maud is telling us her story. And the very start of this book, I was so gripped because you get a few newspaper clippings about a story of Maud's father who killed this man, seemingly random, out of the blue, decided to kill this man. And then you have Maud telling the story of the things that led up to this. It is good, but once we got past the newspaper clippings, the actual story of this has gone really slow, which during the 24-hour readathon just it wasn't what I needed to push through a 24-hour readathon, so I put this book down. I am intrigued because I do think it is going to get a lot better. We're at this point where her father's just found this weird, unusual painting. From what the synopsis says, it's from that point onwards that things start getting really dark. So I am intrigued. I do think it's going to pick up, but yeah, it was just a bit slow. If I get time to read this week, then I will. I would like, so that's basically what this reading vlog is going to be is just finishing up the books that I'm in the middle of. That's the plan. Although I am back at work, so that does mean I'll probably be starting an ebook as well, just to have something easy to read on my phone while I'm out and about. And I'm not sure what ebook that's going to be. I do have a few that's downloaded. We have a couple that's calling my attention. We have The Cruel Prince, which I didn't realise you could get on Kindle Unlimited. The first two are on Kindle Unlimited, so I might give that a try. It's a series that I said I would never read, but so many people say it's really good, and considering I can get it on Kindle Unlimited, it might be worth a try. Or another sort of YA fantasy series that is meant to be really good is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. So this one is a book that I saw on TikTok where people were saying it was really good. So I might choose between those two just to have something on my phone. That's the plan for this week. We're going to see what happens. I do have work, as I mentioned. I'm on late shifts this week, so it's nice and easy. So definitely when I'm eating my lunch, I will be reading probably this one to get it done first. So we're going to be focusing on this one at home and maybe on travelling to and from work. I really want to get this one finished. If I can do about 100 pages a day, just over, then I can definitely get this book finished. That's the plan. If I can squeeze in Wakenhurst, we will. And like I said, I'll be choosing an ebook. We'll just go with what I fancy out of the two that I mentioned, both YA fantasies. That is the plans for this week. I hope you're all doing well. Let me know how everything's going. Oh my gosh, this vlog's going to go up after Christmas, so I hope you had a lovely, lovely time. Let me know how it went for you. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, then I hope you just had a nice weekend regardless. And let me know what you're reading, as always. But yeah, okay, I need to get ready. I need to start sorting myself out for work and that, so I will catch up with you probably tomorrow with what ebook I started, and fingers crossed making progress with The Way of Kings. Bit of reading yesterday. I'm quite impressed. I did start the ebook. I went with Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. I am currently on chapter 9, page 79, about 16% apparently, and it's really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. So it's a young adult fantasy, which we knew because I'm pretty sure I said that already, but we are following our main character Thesina. Not sure on the pronunciation of that one, but she is someone that has just reached her freedom. So we meet her at the very start of the book where she is a young child. Slavers have come to take her away and her family. Some of the family are going into the mines where they know that they are going to be worked to death. Thesina, she is very smart. She decides to stand up to them and go, and you can get more money for me, and forces them to take her instead of selling her in the mines. The route that she ends up in is no better, but at least she's not dying from the work and she has a chance of freedom. Her master, he says to her, if you can give me 1,000 gold coins, I will set you free. And so she does this. This does not go to plan. It's taken her 8 years to get to that point. And then when she does go to him and saying, hey, I've made it to the 1,000 gold coins and stuff, it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well for her at all. But she manages to get away, and she is going to this place called Ara. There are these two orders there. You have the Moon Order, known as Midnight, and the Solarial Order, so the Sun Order. They have different abilities based on what order you're a part of. Now, Thesina is a part of the Midnight Order. She has quite interesting ability. She's able to create these illusions, she's able to freeze them, and she's also able to see what emotions people are feeling and potentially manipulate them. She goes to this order with the idea that she's going to become part of the order, and then she's going to go back to where she was kept as a slave and free everybody else and just get retribution and everything. So she goes to the order, she's in a really bad way, they take her in. However, the orders are really strict and they say to her, you can't be in the orders until you've been an apprentice, and the apprenticeships take 6 years. And she's like, I don't have this time, what are you doing? They decide to bend some rules, but they say that you have to be an apprentice, we can't take that away. Problem being that all the apprenticeships were chosen 5 months prior. There is one person left. His name is Max. There is a really long version of his name, but he even goes, just call me Max. He does not want anything to do with the orders at all, and you find out why at the very start of the book, in the very first chapter, and it was brutal, it was fast paced, it really gripped me, and I was so intrigued. He has fire magic, and because of the events in that first chapter, he's very much like, I want nothing to do with these orders. So he doesn't want to train her. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a choice and she gets dumped on him, and he's just like, you can stay here, doesn't mean I'm training you. So it's an interesting dynamic at the moment seeing those two. We already know from the synopsis of this book that there is going to be a love interest between the two of them, but that Thesina will stop at nothing to do what she feels is right. And I feel like there's going to be quite a lot of different elements to this. There is also potential war going on. It's really, really gripping. I'm surprised more people haven't been talking about it. It did come up on the TikTok video saying, if you like Throne of Glass, give this book a try, it's really good. The characters do actually go morally grey and are quite dark and stuff, and it was really interesting. I have to admit, so far I'm really enjoying the world. I think it's been built amazingly. The magic system that's in place, like, it's really easy to follow. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really, really good. Highly recommend. Honestly, TikTok can be useful for some book recommendations. Not always, but I think it depends where you follow on that. TikTok is something that I go on every so often. I'm definitely a lot more present on YouTube. I will watch YouTube over TikTok every single day, but every so often you do get a gem. But what's been really interesting is to pair a YA fantasy with the adult fantasy reread. It's not something I would normally do, and I think if it weren't for the fact that this is a reread, I wouldn't do 2 fantasy books together regardless of age range, because it can be a bit confusing to learn 2 different worlds, 2 sets of magic systems and everything. Because this is a reread, it makes it a lot easier for me, so I think that's why I'm able to do it. But I did also read a good chunk of this. So we're now up to chapter 16, page 261. That is chapter 16 of the second part. I didn't realise that I wasn't on the second part straight. I don't know what I was talking about yesterday, but we're now up to part 2. And one thing I'd forgotten that happens in these is that between the different parts, you have interludes, and interludes are 3 chapters. Each chapter follows a different character in this world, and it gives you a little snapshot into what is happening in the world while all of these events are going on with our main characters. I really like it. It gives you a glimpse into this amazing world that's been built, and each of those little snapshots, while they may not seem important, they do later play an importance. But at the start of this, it's just a nice little break, and I really enjoyed it. And then we go back into the parts. Now, at the start of each part, you actually get told who is going to be in that part. Let me show you. So for example, with the interludes, you have 3 names here which tell you who you're following, and they each get a chapter. And then once that bit's done, you get to part 2, and again you get 3 names, and those are the 3 people that you are following. In this part we don't get Shalyn at all. She's not present in this. She comes back in, I think, part 3, but that's fine because you know where she's at. Where it finished with her in part 1 was a good place to finish, and then when we get back to her, a lot of the time that's just been spent is her being an apprentice to Jansa, who is the sister to the king and was the daughter of the late king. I got that slightly wrong last week. But now we are following still Kaladin, which we know we love Kaladin. He's in Bridge 4. He's decided that he's going to fight. He's not going to despair. It's still a really crappy situation that he's in, but he is going to fight out against it and do what he can for the people in his Bridge Rum. And then you also have Dalinar and Adolin. Now, Adolin is a fiery, hot-headed young man. He is a really fun character to follow in this. He is pretty much what the Alephi are meant to be, and that is competition is life. Everything is a competition, and that's what this war has kind of broken down into, is just this competition between the different high princes that are out there to get fame and fortune and stuff. And he's very hot-headed, he's very quick to be like, right, we will duel and things like this. He's very much like that. However, he is very protective of his brother, and he cares a lot for his father. He's very concerned about his father. He doesn't agree with what his father is doing, but he's very concerned. His father is Dalinar, and Dalinar is the late king's brother. He was very hot-headed. He was this amazing warrior. He was revered for his brutality and stuff, but now he's taken a step back. He isn't allowing his troops to go out and hunt down these big beasts and engage in these petty skirmishes with the Pashendi. He's very much like, I think we're doing the wrong thing. And he knows it's odd because he is the one that had this idea to do this in the first place, but he's been getting dreams, is now questioning everything as a result of those dreams, and he's having a very un-Alephi way of thinking where he's like, no, we should only ask people to do things that we are willing to do ourselves. We shouldn't care about the ends more than how we got there. And people are like, what are you talking about? And he is being ridiculed a lot. But he is the uncle to the king, and he does everything in his power to protect him, and that's what his whole arc is. He is someone that is very honourable. He is a great character as well. Honestly, I'm going to keep saying that. I love all the characters in this book. But it's really interesting to get those two dynamics. You get more of the politics that surround the Alethi and what is going on with this war, which is really nice to have that compared with Kaladin's perspective as someone who is a slave within this army that's having to do these horrible things just so the high princes can keep playing at being at war. And I think the juxtaposition of those two things is really, really good. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, that's what we're up to. We have a YA fantasy and an adult fantasy. I don't recommend doing that, but like I said, because one of them is a reread, it makes their life a lot easier. But I have the young adult fantasy for when I'm at work, and this one for when I'm at home, so I will be reading more of this on my lunch break. I actually think if we keep up the pace, this is going to be done. It's a very fantasy heavy week this week. Not that I'm complaining. There's something about the cold that makes me think fantasy every single time. So October to me is always gothic horror classics. Every single time. I can't help it. Every year I want to read those gothic horrors, and it doesn't matter that I've read them before, I want to reread them. Though there is a couple that I actually need to get to that are new ones. But that's what October is for me. It's gothic horrors, classics. Then November is more horror books that aren't classics and also murder mysteries. And then once we hit December, January, February, fantasies. Fantasies have their moment. I love them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still do read fantasy books throughout the year, and I still read all the other ones. But those, if I was to say I'm a mood, that would be my spectrum. And then I feel like spring, summer, autumn is just a mix. But it's from October to February. That's when I have in my mind the sort of things that I want to read. I could also be completely wrong, and you can find out next year that this will completely change. But that's how it's been, and I've been really happy with it. I've also realised I am a mood reader, so I have a couple of books on my TBR for December, which I just don't think I'm going to get to. I think going forward, my TBRs are going to be more of like guidelines of this is what I would like to read. I will still read the majority of them, but I'm not going to force myself into it. Why are we doing this tangent? I don't know. I'm going to spare you from the tangent. Pretty sure if you've been watching the last couple of videos you would know this already, especially the 24-hour readathon where I did just dive off the TBR, and that's what I'm saying I'm going to do. Like, if I'm not feeling my TBR, I'm not going to force myself to keep with it. That's it. We're not going to keep rambling more about that. You don't need it. I want to get to reading, and I also want to have some soup for lunch, of course. Honestly, tomato soup, I'm loving it at the minute. My partner thinks I'm so weird, but I think if you just add the cheese, the chili flakes to it, have a nice crusty roll, oh, it's perfect. So that's what's going to be for lunch. I'm clearly in a chatty mood, so. Right, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to read more of this. I'll probably update you tomorrow because why not? Good morning. I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to update today, but I've decided, you know what? We're going to anyway. Because I somehow managed to leave both my books in the middle of really quite exciting parts. I mean, The Way of Kings, I didn't read much at all yesterday. I got to page 326 and I'm actually in the middle of a chapter, which, what am I doing? I just don't ask. Yesterday was just one of those days where, you know, when everything just goes wrong? It was one of those days, and it's just left me in a weird funk, and I wasn't sure if I was even going to update today, but you know what? It's all done. It's in the past. Time to move on. But this point that I've left it in, Dalinar is having one of his visions. So we have something called a high storm that happens, and it's a storm, a massive storm that comes along, but it can rip up houses and all sorts, like it's horrendous. But during these high storms, Dalinar is getting these visions, and it's visions of the past, and so he is in the middle of one at the moment. He didn't manage to get to his rooms in time, so his visions, his being watched by his troops, which is going to have some consequences. We're in the middle of, he's in the past, very far in the past, and he's fighting these weird creatures, and they're talking about a desolation and stuff, so everything that's happening is at the time of the Radiance. It's all unbelievable. As far as Daniel's concerned, he's like, is this even real? And then when he stops and he's talking about everything and the Radiance and stuff afterwards, people just believe he's going crazy. But it's really interesting, and I stopped in the middle of that last night. But like I said, I was not feeling it yesterday. It's been a bit all over the place. But yesterday I did read more of my ebook. So for my ebook, I actually did finish at a chapter. No, I didn't. In the middle of a chapter as well. I'm on page 166. So I didn't read as much, I feel like. And this, again, I've left it in the middle of like a massive battle that's going on, which, what am I doing? I don't know. But it's really interesting. We have Tisana, and Max has agreed to tutor her and be her mentor. But then they get approached by someone in the Order to go to this conflict. Tisana says yes, because she wants to use the Order to help save her friends, and so she's like, I need to make myself valuable to them, and if that means doing this, then that's what I'm going to do. Max is really unhappy about it, but he chooses to go with her. There is this massive conflict. Someone's just blew up their own town so that they didn't have to bow down to what the Orders want. So yeah, again, I've left it in the middle, which is not like me. Normally I always at least finish the chapter or I get to like a page break or something, but no, in the middle of both pages. As usual, I have work again today, and I'm going to attempt to get some editing done. I want to get stuff done so I don't have to do anything over Christmas because I'm at my partner's, so we're going to try and do that, but we'll see how much we actually get done. I hope everything's going well. Yesterday was interesting, but never mind, we are moving onwards. So hopefully today I'll get a bit more read and get back into things, but I just can't believe I left it in the middle of pages, and I felt like I should document that because that is not me. Anyway, I'm rambling, I'm gonna go. Good morning. Yesterday was a much better day and I read a lot more because of it. I don't know if you have that, but I find that if I'm having a bad day, I just don't read much, which is weird because it's going to put me in a better mood, but I just can't get into the mood of reading. I don't know, does that make sense to you? I don't know. But something else that doesn't make sense to me is, remember I said I'm reading Daughter of No Worlds? Loving this book. I also said it was YA fantasy, and I'm not so sure anymore. There has been some really, really graphic moments in this book that do make me question whether it's adult. Now, the only problem with me saying this is, one, I have not looked into it at all, have not done any research. YA fantasy is such a massive spectrum of ages that you can get young YA fantasy, so like 12 to 15, and then you get your older YA fantasy, which is like your 15 up. It's such a large spectrum. I've been thinking about this a lot yesterday, and I was thinking I've said quite a lot how I'm just not into YA fantasy, but I don't think that's true. I think there's specific things that I don't feel as connected to anymore. I'm not sure whether that's the young end, because there are some books that I've really enjoyed that would be considered younger end of YA. Maybe it's just tropes and things. I don't know. I need to think about it some more. But it's just so interesting to have this massive spectrum of young adult fantasy, and the books can feel so completely different and feel like completely different age ranges because it's such a massive age range. Let me know your thoughts. But yes, Daughter of No Worlds. Definitely some grotesque things happen in there. Like, for instance, we have this person that's been interrogated and during the interrogation had his nose removed. Now, I will admit we don't see that interrogation, but we do see the after effects of that interrogation, and it is brutal. There's just moments like that that make me think this series could get very dark, yet it's so well done. Like, I really am very, very gripped. Tisana has now had her assessments. So I was saying at the start of this that Tisana wanted to be a part of the orders so that she can go back and save her fellow friends and just people that were being kept as slaves in Thrall. It was really quite brutal and stuff, and she's had enough. She wants to go back and save them using the orders to do so. But to be a part of the orders, she had to be an apprentice, and part of being an apprentice is you have these different assessments. So Tisana's just had hers and she has passed. That's not a spoiler. She is our main character. Of course she passed. And then we also have her and Max, her mentor's relationship, and it's really growing nicely. And again, that's not a spoiler, that's on the synopsis of the book, but it's really nice to see these two people that have both been terribly hurt in their past, both had very different things happen to them, but equally difficult to overcome, and it's really nice seeing them grow together and seeing their development, and I think it's done so well. I do think the characters in this book are really, really well done, really interesting. Yeah, I'm really loving this book. It's a book that honestly I would get physical copies. I think it's a trilogy, there's just 2 more books. They are all available on Kindle Unlimited, but it's something that I would get a physical copy. I need to look into that to see whether I can get a physical copy, because I do think it's worth it. I'd love to support the author in that way, because this is so good and it's not talked about. Like I said, apart from that one video on TikTok, I've never heard of this series, but it is so good. I would highly recommend it. Although the age range on it, I should probably do some research into. Will I? No, I would definitely say if it is YA, it's on that older end of YA, but I think it's very well done. I didn't even tell you where I got to in that book, so I did get to chapter 35, page 257, and we are 51% of the way through the book. I am very much enjoying this one. I think I'm just going to carry on with it. Tomorrow I'm really quite busy, but I think I'm just going to have that one with me, and then obviously we've got Christmas coming up, so I think I'm just going to keep that book with me to read over the next few days, having a nice one on my phone. I think that's the plan. One book that I am going to be finishing today is The Way of Kings, part 1. We're not going to be finishing the whole book because there is a whole nother half of this book that makes up the first book. Each of these books are about 1200 pages long. This one is just under 600. This is the one I'll be finishing. I will have to do part 2. I would love to say in January, but I think it's more likely going to be February. But I don't mind having the break between them because, as I said, this is the 3rd time of me reading this. So having a break, it doesn't bother me. Although, knowing me and how much I love this book, I will probably also just carry on and hope that I can fit it around my TBR and stuff. We're gonna see. I read quite a bit of this yesterday. We are now up to some more interludes. This is the 2nd set of interludes in this book. We are at the end of part 2, so I'm now up to page 471. I really am enjoying this. The next set of characters we're going to be following, we have Zeth, who we followed from the prologue and also the first interlude, and now the 2nd interlude, and then 2 other characters that we haven't met yet. Again, they're just 3 short chapters that just give insight to what's happening around the world. I feel like at this point I can't say more of what happened because I've already spoken about the fact that we are following Adolin, Dalinar and Kaladin, and Kaladin is part of Bridge 4. He's now fighting for them, he's doing everything he can to keep them alive. You're seeing him fight his own depression to bring the men that are around him that are so despondent, to bring them up and try and create something out of this, and it's so heartwarming. It's really honest as well because it says how hard it is. It says at times that sometimes you just have to force a smile, and maybe it's fake, but that's all you can give and that's enough. And it's just little moments like that in this which I think is brilliant, and that's why Kaladin's one of my favourite characters, because he feels so real. So you're seeing Kaladin, the different things that he's trying to do to get the Bridge 4 crew together, trying to raise them out of the despair and the horrible situation that they're in, trying to give them something to live for. And it's heartwarming, it's lovely, it gets me in the feels every single time. And then Dalinar and Adolin, which Adolin. which we are seeing, as I said, just the politics of the Alethi, how they are so hyper-focused on war and battle and contest, and the thrill of it all is so good. Like, I do enjoy it. We've just had the end of part 2. Dallin has come to a decision because he is really rocking the stability of his own house with his thoughts, with the fact that he's going against everything that the Alethi are, and he is saying ideals and stuff that people just don't agree with, and they think that he is just a weak man because of it all. I don't want to go more and more into it because at that point I'm just giving away spoilers and things that are happening, but just been more developed with that storyline, and obviously you see his son's perspective on that as well. So yeah, that's where we're up to. I am very much enjoying this. I think I've got about 120 pages to go today, but I do think that's possible, so going to be finishing this today. I'm so happy with it. I'm pleased that I got one of the books that I wanted to finish this week done. That's really good. So yeah, that's it. Today I've got work and then I'm off for 5 days across the Christmas period, which I'm really lucky with. It's just worked out really nicely that my usual 5-day weekend that pops up every so often hit across Christmas. Otherwise, I could have been working the majority of it. So it's quite nice to have that and have a nice few days off together. I think that's going to be lovely. And that's it really. I've got a little bit of editing I want to get done this morning before heading off to work. Tomorrow, as I said, a busy day, but I'll probably talk about that more tomorrow morning. I'm enjoying both of these books and I think they're fantastic. I still have not got a new version of this book because I mentioned last week how much it smells, and it's got a little bit better because it's been out and about, but I keep it in a book sleeve in my bag because I've been reading this on the train to work. Every time I take it out of the book sleeve you just get this whiff, and I really need to get a new one. I do have a £10 Waterstones gift card, so I might just spend that to get a new copy. I was also thinking to use it on something else. I don't know, I mean I've been reading it fine. At this point I've almost finished it and it's probably going to take me another couple of years to get around to rereading it, so maybe I'll just wait till then. Who knows? Anyway, I'm rambling. I've got stuff to do, so let's get on and do that and catch up with you probably tomorrow morning. Good morning! Christmas ears are on because this is probably the last time you're going to see me till after Christmas. Yesterday I finished The Way of Kings Part 1. I loved this so much. As we know, we started off with the interludes, which always give a really nice light bit of humour that is needed throughout this book, and there's one particular part that always makes me laugh every single time I read it. We are following this particular character. She is a apprentice to a merchant, and they've gone to part of the world where there's actually grass. Now the rest of this world is pretty much stone and rock everywhere, and their plants hide within the rocks. They come out when it's been raining and stuff to get all of their nutrients and stuff, but the minute anyone comes near them or anything really disturbs them, they hide within the rocks again. So this person finds it really weird that there's such a thing as grass. She's like, it's dumb. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. And he turns around and says to her, you're going to take some grass. You're going to look after it, keep it alive until you stop thinking of it as weird. It's going to make you a better merchant. And there's just this one part right at the end where she's thinking, and she walked off to do as she was told. No use complaining. She did get out a rugged pair of gloves first though and roll up her sleeves. She was not going to ruin a good dress for a pot of drooling, wall-staring, imbecile grass, and that was that. And honestly, it's that last bit where it's the drooling, wall-staring, imbecile grass. It cracks me up every single time. I think it's hilarious. I love it. I thought it's such a good description of grass. But yeah. Loved that, need that bit of lightness, and then you go back to the war and things that are happening. There's such good descriptions of war in this. You really get a feel for all of that high stakes, the tension, the rush, the chaos of it all. I think it does it really well. So I loved all of that. You have a bit more of Caladin. Where it ends in part 1, because as I said, this is one big book. So you have part 1 and part 2. but it is just one big book. The point where it stops, I think works really well because it's a bit of a cliffhanger of something's just happened to Kaladin and you're like, oh my god, perfect place to end it. And then you go to Shallan, and Shallan's obviously been an apprentice to Jansa. You're seeing how she's fighting that and how she's fighting between what she went there to actually do and how much she's loving just being an apprentice and having this freedom that she's never had before, until where it ends with her. She's then thrown into a situation which is so difficult for her and it's causing her to question everything, and Jansa uses it as a learning point. And I think it's really good because something upon this reread, I've just been finding that there are so many comments on society that I have missed when I've been reading this because I've just been too wrapped up in the actual magic storyline of it all. But there's so much commentary in this which I think is fantastic. So this very last bit where it ended, I think a perfect place to end, but it really does call out a lot of things. So where Shallan is, she's in this different city. There has been some murders that are happening of people trying to go to the theatre, and the guards aren't doing anything about it. It's just going unchecked, and Jansa's like, oh, we're going to change that. She goes there and she does something. Oh, that's the neighbour's dogs. But she does something deliberately to get them to them. And then Shallan goes, but you basically asked for it. And I think it's a really good question because there's so much in society where they're like, oh, well, the girl was dressed in like a mini little skirt, so she was clearly asking for it. It's like, no, she's allowed to wear what she wants. She's allowed to be comfortable and confident in whatever she's wearing and shouldn't expect that sort of behaviour. And that's what Shallan and Jansa are basically discussing in this. It ends with a series of questions from Jansa for Shallan to consider. Am I a monster or am I a hero? Did I just slaughter 4 men? Or did I stop 4 murderers from walking the streets? Does one deserve to have evil done to her by consequence of putting herself where evil can reach her? Did I have a right to defend myself? And I love it. I love those little moments that I can pull out of this book and have that social commentary, and just it really does get you thinking. And that was right at the end of this, which I think was a perfect place to end it, and it really does get you thinking about those really topical discussions within society. And I firmly stand on the fact that you should be allowed to wear what you want, be able to go places that you want, just because you're wearing something like it. You're never asking for it, ever. But it does a really good job of making that point and making you think as a reader, and Shallan realise this and have that conflict in her because she's been so sheltered, and she's just like, well, no, you were basically asking for it. And that is something that Shallan actually says, and then Jansa questions and pushes her and goes, but does this make it right? Just because we were in this position, does it mean that their actions are suddenly inexcusable? And it's really good. Obviously Jansa takes it to the extreme because she kills the people, but it brings that point home, and it's just been one of the things that I'm really loving about this. Not only do you have an amazing world that's being built, amazing magic system, great characters that you can really root for, scenes that are depicted so well, but you also have social commentary in this. What doesn't this do? It's fantastic, in my opinion. The problem is I now just want to go straight on to part 2. And I mean, to be fair, I would just be continuing on with the same book. So technically, I would just be continuing on with the same book. Do I have 3 books on my December TBR that I haven't read? Yes. One is getting read, and that's going to get read tomorrow evening. Read it Christmas Eve evening. Very excited for it. It's a Charles Dickens Christmas story, not a Christmas Carol. I read that last year, but I've got a collection of 4 of them, so I'm reading a different one this year. So that's definitely going to get done. But then that still leaves 2 books that I have not read, and I should pick up one of those. But part 2, part 2. And I also have like Wakenhurst, which I'm halfway through in. But this, I'm gonna bring it with me. That's the end of the decision. I haven't read any more of Daughter of No Worlds. I will be bringing that with me, obviously, because it's on my phone. So I will try and get some more of that read. I've also, as I said, got the Charles Dickens book to read on Christmas Eve, although that's like 20 pages, so that's not going to take long. And then I'm also going to bring this. Is this way too much? Because let's face it, I'm not going to get this much read. Yes, because I'm extremely busy. Like, even this morning, I had a Nerf battle with my little brother, so busy doing that. It was good fun. I won. It was fantastic. And then this afternoon I'm meeting my dad. We're going to a candlelit orchestra and ballet thing in the evening, so we're meeting up for dinner and then doing that. And then I'm going over to my sister's house and I'm staying over there tonight so I can have Christmas Eve with my sister and my nephew, which will be really nice. And then I'm going over to my partner's house on Christmas Eve to then stay with them until Boxing Day. Like, the reality is I'm not going to get a lot of reading done, because even when I'm at my partner's, like, we've already confirmed we're going to finish watching Wednesday. We've got 3 episodes left of that, and then there's also Alice in Borderlands, which is back for another season, and we really liked the first season, so I'm not going to get reading done. But in those spare 5 minutes I will start this. I shouldn't, but I will. But there we go. I hope you all have an amazing Christmas. I'm pretty sure I've already said this, but I hope you have no, it's have for me. I hope you had for you an amazing Christmas. But yeah, I've got a couple bits to do. I need to sort some stuff out before I have to go, and I think I've got like 2 hours. So wish me luck. We're gonna get it all done. And like I say, I hope you had an amazing Christmas, and I will catch up with you after Christmas, probably on the 27th in the morning, to probably wrap up this vlog as well. Look at that. 2 birds, 1 stone. Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna go. I am literally talking rubbish right now, and I've still got to sort myself out before I go. So we're gonna see you soon. Good morning! I hope you all had a lovely Christmas. I've said that a lot in this update, but I hope you did. I had a really nice, relaxing weekend. It was definitely needed. Well, I say relaxing. It was rather busy on the Friday. As we know, I went out to the candlelit orchestra with a few ballet performances, and that was really lovely. It was nice just to go to something different. I have been to one of the candlelight orchestras before. That was for Halloween, and I have to admit I did prefer that one just because I think I connected with the music a bit more. It was a bit more lively, a bit more fun, but this one was beautiful and so graceful. So I definitely want to keep a lookout for more of these candlelight orchestras because they're so lovely and it's such a nice way to do something a bit different. So I had a lovely evening with my dad doing that, and then as we know, went over to my sister's house and spent majority of Christmas Eve with her, and that was really fun, just seeing my nephew, and we went for a nice walk and everything, and it was just lovely. Oh, and she got me that beautiful little incense burner which I filmed some of. It was so beautiful, it's so relaxing. I'm thinking when I'm journaling it'll be beautiful to have that going alongside it. So yeah, very, very happy with that. Then yeah, I went over to my partner's house and we just spent a really nice relaxing Christmas Day going into Boxing Day before coming back home. It was really needed. It was absolutely lovely. I will show you 2 of the main bookish gifts that I got for Christmas. My partner got me more lipstick, which is never a bad thing, but his mum got me these beautiful bookends. I am in love with this, especially because I'm running out of space, so I've been using the top of my bookcases a lot. So this is going to come in so handy. It's fox themed and it's just beautiful. I love it so much. Very happy with those. My dad also got me one of his favourite books, which is The Stranger Times by C.K. McDonald. I don't know too much about this, but he said it's hilarious and it's one of his favourites. It says on the backs, dedicated to reporting the weird and the wonderful, but mostly the weird, The Stranger Times is Manchester's go-to newspaper for the unexplained and inexplicable. I'm looking forward to it. I've had a look on Goodreads and the ratings for this are always really good, so yeah, this is going to be something outside my comfort zone. I don't normally read a lot of like funnier books, but I'm interested, I'm intrigued. So those were the main ones, and obviously the 2 books that lovely Naomi sent to me, which I'm so excited about, and I unboxed those in last week's vlog. But yeah, overall it's been a lovely time. I've just enjoyed it. It's been good. Reading wise, so I didn't even start The Way of Kings Part 2 didn't even open it as I thought I was way too busy for that. I did read The Chimes by Charles Dickens. I didn't read it on Christmas Eve, which was the plan. I was just too busy, but I read it on Christmas Day. It was 90 pages long. I liked it. The only thing that held this back for me was that it felt like just another spin-off of A Christmas Carol, which obviously Charles Dickens did write, and I read that one last year, and it's his main Christmas classic. It's the one that everybody really knows. But this one just felt like that. And that kind of frustrated me a little bit because I feel like the themes that it's dealing with is very good. It's all about society, humanity, not believing in it, and just feeling a bit fed up with it all, and then being shown different, in this case, futures of how things can turn out and how there is humanity left in the world, which is lovely. But it played out very, very similar to A Christmas Carol, which I just found really annoying in a way. I don't know. I just feel like there could have been something done a bit different. I feel like it was just A Christmas Carol turned on its head. So instead of following someone who has loads of money that's not willing to give anything, we're following someone who is from the working class, he's very poor, he is struggling to make ends meet, and instead of it being on Christmas Day, it's actually on New Year's. So it just felt like opposite to what A Christmas Carol was, but following the exact same themes. So yeah, I mean, it was fine. I liked it for what it was. The writing, as always, it's Charles Dickens, so it's going to be very good. I don't know, I think I just preferred A Christmas Carol, and maybe that's just because it is the more popular one, but all I could see was the correlations between the two, and I was hoping for something a bit different. Other than that, I did finish Daughter of No Worlds by Clarissa Broadbent, and this was such a good book. I'm actually surprised it's not been picked up by a traditional publisher because I really enjoyed this book. So I actually finished this very late last night, like 1:30 in the morning, because I was just engrossed. I didn't want it to finish. The ending was really like high stakes. There was a lot going on. The things that Tisana has agreed to help her home, to help free those slaves, is, I mean, it's not good, but it adds so much extra to the plot, and like so many stakes and things. It's really good, really tense, and it's one of those books where I don't think people are going to survive. Normally you can go into these books and you're like, oh, everyone's going to live, it's fine. In this one, no, I don't believe that. I do think something really bad is going to happen just from the way it's all going. I find it so fascinating. I really enjoy the magic of this world. I like how our characters are faced with such difficult decisions all the time. I actually think, you know, I was saying how I wasn't sure whether this was young adult or not. I would actually argue that this goes into the new adult age range, which was an age range that I was a bit like, why do we need this? But actually we do, because it's not fully adult, but it's definitely not young adult because of some of the scenes that are in this. So new adult works perfectly for this. So that's where I'd argue it is. And like I say, I do want to read the rest of the books. I'm really enjoying it. I do think it should be picked up traditionally. Like, if you haven't read this one, I really would give it a read. Like I say, it is free on Kindle Unlimited, so go check it out. I want to get physical copies, so that's going straight onto my wish list. It is one of those ones that if you like Sarah J Maas, or if you like Girls of Paper and Fire, or those classic big YA/new adult fantasy books that people seem to really love, yeah, this one. I think it fits in with those perfectly, and yet still holds its own in how different it is, and it's just gritty, and I love our characters in this. We do actually, as the book goes on, you get Max's perspective and Tisana's, which I really enjoyed in this. I just think it's beautiful, amazing, and some of the scenes, some of the things that happen are just so hard hitting. Thankful that I found that TikTok video, because without it I would never have picked up this book, and I'm so pleased I did. It is a trilogy. We'll be reading the rest. I do want to get physical copies of this. I think it's very good. But that was my reading for this week, so I think I've done really good, to be fair. We've finished 2 books? Yeah, finished 3 books if we count the Chimes, but that was only 90 pages. But yeah, we finished 3 books. I'm quite impressed with that. It's been a good reading week. I hope you all have had an amazing week. As I have said numerous times throughout this, let me know what some of your favourite things that you got for Christmas, or if you don't celebrate Christmas, just what did you do? Did you get a chance to relax and read, and, you know, the usual. But that will do for now. So I think if you've made it this far, Thank you so much. As always, impressed you put up with me rambling for so long. But let's put a Christmas tree emoji in the comments below. If you have enjoyed it, please do give it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. It really, really helps me out. And my social media links will be linked below, and I will catch you in the next one.